Mike.
Hey, Brandon, what's going on, man? Everything's good here in sunny, hot, and humid Central Florida.
Yeah. Well, it's not too hot up here in Georgia, actually. It's kind of
As a
nice.
matter of fact, it's 'cause I have this weird news thing that like if I move my mouse down to the corner, this thing comes across. I'm sure you know what it is, but whatever, some sort of thing that
Yeah.
like this news feed comes up, and literally the bottom left hand corner down there, the bottom left hand corner of my screen has a thermometer with flames coming out of it. I don't know if that's trying to tell me that it's hot out.
No, man. Go out in a sweater and some pants today.
Put on a hoodie.
It's so
Wow, look at that. I got like a little hair sticking
so
up.
cold. It's hot. Yeah, man. Well, how's things going for you this week? Staying busy?
Good. Good. I had a busy week last week and I'm still recovering, I think. We Rosie and I snuck off on Wednesday and went kayaking and spent literally almost 9 hours in the water
Jeez.
on Wednesday.
In the
So
water or on the water?
in and on. But so it's a place called Rainbow River, and it's a yeah, natural spring, so it's like 73-degree water, but the banks of the river, the trees are grown right up to the banks,
Yeah.
so there's no place to beach. But we did, like, there was an area that was like maybe a little inlet, a little kind of a
Hmm.
tributary, right, if that's the right word,
Yeah.
off to one side. And so we went over there and it was maybe waist deep, but again, you can't walk off out of the water. There's no shoreline. The only place you can find a shoreline is in the state park itself, and there's like a couple of campgrounds or places. And we didn't go to the state park because they have a horrible, it's like you have to carry the kayak
Yeah.
freaking like a mile and a half or something stupid. And then we have a big, heavy tandem kayak. So we went to another place where we put in, and so we're tooling around, and we like went into a little tributary, and I got out of the boat and waist deep. We ate lunch. We brought food with us, and public subs for those of you who don't know the myth and amazing Publix that we
Yeah.
have
You hear
down
that? You
here.
hear that, Publix? We need sponsorship.
That's right. Now I'll sign my contract. But yeah, no. So we brought a pub sub and some bottles of water and just kind of some stuff. But we
Right.
stood waist deep in water and ate, leaning over the kayak, and then did a little bit of fishing and stuff. But I never touched dry ground. I was either in the kayak or in the water for no kidding like 9 hours, and then
Dang.
my yeah, and then after we left, we were on the boat ramp getting out, loading stuff back up, and got a call. My daughter had a medical scare, so
Right.
instead of going home and having we would have fallen fast asleep because it was a 2-hour drive from
Yeah.
home from there.
Out in the sun all the
Instead, we
time.
went to Coco, to the emergency room, which was a 2.5-hour drive. And we spent a few hours in the emergency room. Thank goodness she is okay. There's nothing to worry about there. But then, headed back to my neck of the woods, which we're about an hour from Coco.
Yeah.
So, so
Out in the
that
water
was
up there.
it was a lot of driving. I did like what it was 7 hours of driving and 9 hours in the water, and that was Wednesday. Friday, my daughter moved, so and I mean, how it is when I'm doing stuff like that. I'm still kind of answering phone calls and you know messages from the operations team, and you know how that is, and so
Oh yeah.
no rest, man, no rest. So this weekend, you know. I said jokingly said to Rosie, I was like, "Hey, do you want to go? You want to go kayaking?" And she's like, no. And normally she loves to go. We go almost
Yeah.
every week,
Yeah.
but that was
You
a
hitting a
heck of a trip.
Are you hitting a different spot each week, or when you going?
you know, sometimes we have our like we have so Shingle Creek, which is actually considered the headwaters for the Everglades, is it starts right up here, probably 20 minutes from my house, and
That's
it's
the one you went to last time?
that's the one that if you've ever seen any pictures, um, you know, the water's like like black, like dark tea water. You know, the springs, the water was clear, like where we were, Rainbow Springs. Man, I mean, you could see there's sections where it's probably like 20 feet deep, and you can see all the way to the bottom. You see straight down to the bottom, and it very little interference. But but Shingle Creek, man, you can't see your paddle when it's in the water. You know, it's like it's dark. So I am not swimming in Shingle Creek. What's that?
Has it always been like that?
Yeah, it's tannic. It's from the trees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's what makes whenever you see water, especially in the South, that's dark colored water. It's not dirty. It's the tannic. And have you ever heard the expression tanning? Right? You know, I'm going to tan your hide, or when they used to tan leather, right? Well, that's what they used. They actually got the tannic out of trees. It's an acid, and that's what they used to treat the leather. And but that tannic makes the water, you know, black like that or dark brown.
Wow.
You know? And if it's a little bit deep, I mean, man, you know, it can be like shallow. You can look out of the boat and not be able to see into the water. And you put the paddle down, and it goes down. You know, like you're like, you know, just deep enough for a kayak, and you can't see.
Wow.
Or you put the paddle down, and it just keeps going down like the whole length of the paddle, and you're like, man, you obviously you can't see. So it's like it's kind of creepy. You don't know what's under you. You have no idea what's under you.
Yeah,
and that, but yeah, that's probably my favorite close location, because we'll go in there, and I'll do it on the weekdays. You know, when we'll go out, we'll get in the water at 7:30, and we could get out of the water at 10. I'm home at my desk, working at 11. So, but man, you got to enjoy life.
Yeah, man.
Life's
I
life's
didn't,
meant to be
I
enjoyed.
thought all the springs were clear. I guess,
Well,
not
that's a
really know
creek.
everything.
That's a creek. Although it is spring fed, that's a creek.
It turns it. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well,
yeah,
you know,
springs are generally clear.
right. Well, speaking of misconceptions, it brings in the first topic I was going to talk about today is investment.
That was a great
lending.
transition, by the way.
You know,
That
yeah.
was smooth.
Yeah. Debt to income ratio, or not debt to income ratio. Debt to income ratio.
Yeah, that was what you mentioned before. You were
Debt to income ratio. The misconception of it, people not understanding, and it's not always cut and dry.
It's not.
One
It's
size
not.
fits all, and it's like, okay, well, are you making this much money, and you're spending this much money, and it's like,
right. So DTI is most often something that we deal with on like residential mortgages, right? Conventional. And just to clarify, so when we say conventional, we mean Fannie or Freddie, and their differences, they're very similar, but there are differences. So if I can say this, because I actually had a friend who worked for Fannie Mae, and she used to say, Fannie is, like is the woman, right? Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, right? And she's like, Fannie talks about everything, tells you everything, what you're supposed to do, what you can do, what you can't. Freddie's kind of the wild brother, like the younger brother who's, but like a man doesn't really tell you as much. And so there are a lot of places where Freddie Mac guidelines are less specific, and so it gives a little more flexibility on interpretation. So and like, for example, Fannie Mae, pretty much you always need 2 months of bank statements to source assets. Freddie Mac, probably not. In fact, unless the automated underwriting system says you need something, you pretty much don't need it. But DTI, when we're talking about, conventional, and we'll use FHA, as well in this scenario, DTI, there's limits, and there are limits that are required per the guidelines, the ones that are in writing, right? And then there's limits that you can get away with through automated underwriting. And so, for example, in your, on conventional loans, typically we know we can get, and by the way, when we say DTI, debt to income ratio, what we're talking about is the debt that shows up on a credit report and or the new housing payment. Okay. So when we look at someone's front ratio, you'll hear it said sometimes. The front ratio refers to their income or their liabilities associated with just the house. Okay, so the new mortgage payment, the property taxes, the homeowner's insurance, the homeowners association, mortgage insurance, flood insurance, the payment associated with the house. So your front ratio is that total housing payment as a percentage of their monthly income. Okay, and then the higher ratio, which is sometimes called the back ratio or the total ratio. There's a few different common phrases for it. The back ratio is all the debt that they have on their credit report, if you want to think of it that way, right? The minimum payments on the credit cards, the car payments, their, whatever bills that show up with a payment there, boat payment and whatever, those things plus that total housing payment. So in conventional, we don't even think about or worry about the percentage, the ratios, the guidelines. It's what can get approved in DU, in desktop underwriting, which is an automated underwriting system, DO now, or LP for Freddie Mac, but the automated underwriting system. And if it says you're good, we know we can get basically up to a 50% back ratio. We can typically get a 50% back ratio approved if they've got decent credit and so on. The lower the credit, guess what? Those things are not going to get approved. But the question that you kind of brought up earlier was, okay, well, what if somebody's ratios don't work, right? Oh my God, the ratios don't work. Deal's dead, right? No, the deal's not dead. So there's a few things. One, there's ways to restructure debt. There's things that often can be paid off. When we're looking at the payment, remember the housing payment can be lowered by lowering the interest rate, by lowering the loan amount, so there's things that can be done. So if someone's like, well, I don't want to put any more money down. Okay. Do we have room to buy down the rate? How far can we buy down the rate in order to make these ratios work? Is there something we can pay off? Right? Can we pay off this credit card payment, completely remove it, or this rooms to go payment, and move that around and take that payment out of the ratios.
Is that kind of area when they're in the residential side for home buyers, is that usually kind of finagled during the pre-approval stage of
Typically, yeah. Yeah, and we may not have them, that's a great question. We may not have them execute on a plan, right? We may say, all right, listen, Brandon, in order to qualify, you're probably going to have to pay off this credit card that has a balance of X with this payment or this, and a lot of times it's it might be a car payment, that's too big to exclude, but has a fairly low balance, and you say, man, you know what? And generally speaking, if a payment is only 10 months left, it could be it can typically be excluded. There's some limitations. But so if, let's say the payment has 15 months left, the balance is still pretty low. On a car payment, maybe it's pay it down to 10 months. Maybe it's pay it off. Whatever those questions might be. And typically we'll say, hey, Brandon, this is what we're looking at. These are some of the strategies that we're having. It looks like you have the assets to be able to do that. I mean, listen, if you want to pay it off, pay it off. It's not going to hurt you. But if you want, but then we're going to have to re-pull credit and we're going to have to verify that the payment's zero, or we're going to have to get a statement, a payoff statement or something, right? Depending on when we do it. Or we can have it paid off at closing. Make the title company do it. Most of the time, the underwriters will agree with that. So we can look at those things, and we might say, hey, listen, depending on what house you find, you may have to pay this off. Gosh, you may have to pay these 3 things off, right? And it's normal, But then once it's very hard to predict until we know, because what if they get all right? We're under contract. There's no HOA.
Yeah.
In Florida, a lot of times I kind of plan on an HOA, so I might put in our system under the, on the new housing payment, I might put $150, depending on the location of the house, the part of the state that it's in, I might put $150 placeholder, and there's no HOA. Now we take that out and we start looking, okay, what's our real price? What are rates doing now? Well, rates have come down a little bit since we pre-approved a month and a half ago. And so, okay, well, we don't have to pay off all 3 of those. We can pay 1, or maybe we don't have to pay anything off. We can lower the interest rate a little bit, whatever it is. But that there's some very typical ways that can be tweaked.
Right.
But you were going to ask something.
So what's, in reflection to the pre-approval process, and you're talking about all these strategies, options and everything, the one thing that always comes to my mind is like, the sleazy car salesman pre-approval type of process where they're like, yeah, we can get you into this, man. Here you go. And like, maybe they do add some pieces on there, because I think they're supposed to disclose different things, but maybe you can.
That's a great question. No, we have a conversation, and we typically are going to put that in writing. Right. So we're going to have a conversation and say, hey, Brandon, look, and here's the thing to understand. You can tell someone you're pre-approved for $350,000. But if the HOA is $600 a month, that may change everything. So typically what the conversation I'm having with the borrower is, you're pre-approved for a maximum of a $3,100 payment based on your income. Now, here's what I think. Let's assume $150 on the HOA. Let's assume, insurance is 0.45% of the sales price divided by 12 for the monthly insurance payment. That's an assumption. If it's an old house, that insurance may be higher. If it has a pool, if it's on a lake, that insurance may be higher. Those are variables. So we're going on averages, right? I always use 1.5% of the sales price as the property taxes. Initially, their property taxes are going to be lower, but you know what? I like to sleep at night, and I can tell you how often I get these calls from realtors. I mean, it's often. This guy bought a house, and after the first year, his mortgage payment went up $4,000. What? I don't understand what happened. And 10 out of 10 times, it's not an adjustable rate mortgage. It's the original mortgage company underestimated the property taxes. And then when the property taxes were adjusted because of the sale of the house, there was an escrow deficiency. A lot of lenders won't let you do that. A lot of lenders will make you do an estimator or use 1.5% in Florida. I mean, that's just kind of how they do it, right? But not all of them. And so some of these sleazy people know which lenders will allow you to get away with, these sleazy brokers will go out and they'll do that and they'll send it to some lender that doesn't give a crap. Well, I mean, you're setting them up for failure because all of a sudden they either have to come up with a bunch of money or maybe their mortgage payment almost doubled. I mean, I've had people call me crying and like, but there's nothing we can do. There's just nothing that can be done. It was just an escrow deficiency. So what does that mean? That means when the property taxes came due, now they're reassessed. The tax assessed value is, the tax assessed, based on the tax assessed value, the property tax bill is now $5,000, and the escrows were built with it being $1,200 because that's what the seller was paying because they bought the house 15 years ago. And then if you own a house and you live in, if it's owner occupied and you have homestead exemption, that your property taxes can only go up 2% so per year. So all of a sudden they're reassessed, and the money that was saved in the escrow account isn't enough to even pay the bill. So that means the lender's upside down, right? The lender gave money essentially out of their pocket to pay the tax bill. Right. And now they have to recover that money and make sure there's enough money in the escrow account for next tax bill. So that's a double shortfall. And that happens a lot. And people are like, what, my escrow part of if they even understand the difference, most people don't. Escrow payment was.
We're going to talk about broker liabilities at some point.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. But, the problem is it's very hard to do much about it. I mean, I can tell you the state of Florida, does not have the mortgage SWAT team to come kick in doors and stop those bad guys from doing what they're doing. It's a sad thing. I mean, really, it's actually very frustrating, because we see cases of fraud. We get called about them a fair bit, from realtors and even from other mortgage professionals. And yeah, they're frustrated. But so back to DTI for a second though so those are like the conventional and the FHA thing. VA is a weird thing. I've seen, 70% back ratio on a VA loan. As long as they have enough residual income, it goes through. It's kind of a weird, it's calculated differently. Those loans work differently. But what I was going to say is there's also all of these loans that are alternative loans, right? They're all these wacky loans, and someone doesn't have enough regular income if they're self-employed, maybe their tax returns. We do, we can look at a bank statement loan. We can look at profit and loss statement loans. As long as they have the credit and the money to put down, they can get those deals done. They're out there. They're available, So there's resources for those scenarios. And I would always encourage if somebody's dealing with that, get someone who knows what they're doing to look at the scenario and see if all options have been exhausted. Basically, you need income and credit, or you need income and assets, or you need credit and assets, and you can almost make a deal work, right? If you don't have income and you don't have any money, or you don't have any credit, all right, well, that one-legged table ain't going to stand very long, But as long as you've got, two of the three, there's a good chance that there's a solution. Yeah. It may not always make sense. And I just had a conversation with somebody recently. She wanted to buy a house and she could have gotten away with it. But she was looking it was like a 450-ish price range. And this lady was she was divorced. Her ex-husband had kind of sheltered her from all of the financial decisions. And her and her like teenage daughter were renting a room in a house. One room. They were renting one room in a house. And they were paying like $1,100. And the payment that was coming up was was like, I mean, on the property that she wanted, I was estimating whatever, like, $3,500 a month. But then we're talking about her income, and she was self-employed. She owned a small cleaning company. And I said, well, I mean, obviously we're gonna have to go alternative documentation because you're not showing all of your income, of course. And she goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, I mean, when you file your taxes as a business owner, right, you're probably not showing all of the income that you actually made. And she goes, well, what did it say? And like the tax return said $12,000 of income, let's say, right? $1,000 a month. Can't afford a $3,000 payment with $1,000 a month. Right? And and I said, yeah, so I mean, that's what it said. And she's like, yeah, that's about right. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, no, yeah, we're right now. I mean, I'm making about $1,000 a month. She said I have some expenses, but after paying gas and cleaning supplies, I'm only making about $1,000 a month right now. And but she had like $100K in the bank because they sold the marital home.
Ah, okay.
So she was subsidizing her life with that, right? And so of course the realtor's pushing, get this deal done. She's got $100K in the bank, right? But I literally had to tell this girl, I said, listen, think about this for a minute. With the money that you have, first off, you're going to have to put down a big chunk of it because you don't have enough income, right? So we're going to have to use an alternative program. But what's going to happen when that money runs out and you have to make this $3,500 a month payment? This is not the house for you. It doesn't make sense. And she's not getting any. The guy's supposed to be paying, child support. She's not getting any child support. So we wouldn't have been able to show it because she hadn't been receiving it. But she's like, she didn't expect him to be paying it. And the kid's like 16, so it's only going to be continuing for a couple of years anyway. So it's like,
so how did she even get a house in front of her without like going through the pre-approval and stuff?
No, something that happens a lot more than you think.
Oh, geez.
Realtors will say, hey, can you pre-approve Brandon? And we'll be like, yeah, okay, working on it. And Brandon is already getting there. And I understand why they do it. You know why realtors do it? Maybe they don't take them to the house, but they start sending them houses that match what that customer was thinking about, because they know if they don't do it, what's that person going to do? That person's going to go on Zillow.
Yeah.
And they're going to click, and then they're going to get a phone call, and then someone from Zillow is going to take them.
Yeah.
That's what the realtor's worried about. So, I mean, you got to understand why they do it. It doesn't make sense. I mean, but I get it.
Right. Well, is what it is, but luckily she didn't get thrown into that. I don't think she would have got approved anyway, but
well, no, I mean, I think we could have gotten her approved on a P&L loan, a profit and loss statement loan. Absolutely, we could have gotten her approved.
Man,
with zero, just a letter, just a profit and loss statement, one profit and loss statement from the person who does her taxes. Doesn't even need to be a CPA anymore. I mean, there's programs that require it, but there's also programs that'll I could get that loan done. I could have gotten a loan done for her.
Yeah.
But it would have had a $3,500 loan payment and whatever I don't remember what the price range was anymore that she was at, but and the rate's a little bit higher on those types of loans, but she had the down payment.
Yeah.
But what would have happened? She would have lost that house.
6 or 12 months less of her lifeline left,
Right. Yeah. Then what? Then what happens?
Well,
I mean, that's not right.
Producing, 5-6K a month by then.
Yeah. I mean, but can you count on that? I don't think it will. I mean,
I wouldn't.
I mean, and maybe it would. I don't know, right. but I can't. Scary to me.
I guess everybody can't be as ethical as you, Michael.
Bro, I mean, it's not hard to be ethical to me. It's like you do it because you have to, because you're supposed to.
Yeah. Well, not everybody's like us, man. Everybody wants to try to rip somebody off, make some money. Hopefully they can dodge going to jail, That's
yeah.
It is now, man. But yeah, that's all the time we have, guys. I appreciate everybody listening. Thanks, Michael, for your input and for your, guidance. Until next time, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Peace out. Have a good one, brother. Take care. Bye, everybody.
See you, man.